Now, what are these 5 constituents? Let's take a very quick look at the 5 of them, and then I will go on to talk about something related to it first. So Panchakanda is commonly translated as 5 aggregates. Pancha means 5, and then they can't find a word for it. They call it kanda, means aggregate. So I'm not too clear how this word aggregate came about, but what is easier to understand, what is this thing called Panchakanda? My teacher, Venerable Dr. Punaji, calls it the 5 constituents of the process of perception. That means there is a process of perception arising in our consciousness whenever light enters the eye, sound enters the ear, and there's smells, and there is flavors, and there is touches, and then there is an awareness of objects. It is the arising of this awareness. That's what this 5 constituents is all about. And this arising of the awareness, basically, the Buddha described it as when we see something, right, an image appears in our mind. So what is going on? So this is really seeing and having this perception of an image arising in the mind, that is rupa. The rupa is often translated as object, matter, something physical, materiality, corporeality even they call it. But actually the word rupa is not talking about something physical that exists. Because many of us know some words in Bahasa Malaysia and a lot of words in Sanskrit, a lot of words in Sinhalese, in many other languages like Chakma language in Bangladesh, they have their root source coming from Sanskrit. And everybody agrees the word rupa means image or appearance. What is rupa in Bahasa Malaysia? Appearance. Does rupa means a physical object? No. It means an appearance. That's what it is. Appearance in the mind. So rupa is appearance of a mental object arising in the mind. So it's really seeing an image in the mind. Because in the mind, it is a continuous flow of images. Visual images, verbal images, and auditory images. We see images sometimes in color, sometimes in black and white in the mind. And we may even hear words being spoken, that's verbal. And we may even be hearing sounds, right? And that is auditory. So that is what rupa means. Vedana is translated as feeling, sometimes translated as sensation. But whatever it is really a kind of feeling. But very importantly, Vedana is not an emotional feeling. I will explain this later on. And Vedana and Sanya always go together. If there is Sanya, there is Vedana. Sanya is the sensation, the sensing of something. Example, if I hit the hand, the sensing of that impact, that is Sanya, sensation, sensing the impact. At the same time, associated with every sensation, there is a feeling. This feeling is not an emotional feeling. This feeling is basically a feeling that disturbs the nervous system. So when you get something hit on your hand, that feeling is unpleasant. So it's either pleasant or unpleasant. On the other hand, if somebody were to stroke your hand like that, oh, that's very pleasant. You see? So it's pleasant or unpleasant. So this feeling is really the feeling of the sensation, not emotional feeling. Both these experiences use the same word, but actually here Vedana means feeling of the sensation, what you have sensed. In the same way, when you see light that is bright, is that pleasant or unpleasant? It's unpleasant, right? From the sensation point of view. If you hear sounds that is loud, is that pleasant or unpleasant? Right? So that is the feeling of whether it is pleasant or unpleasant. Very objective feeling. So you could say this is an objective feeling. That's what Vedana means. Sanya refers to that sensation. But very often the word Sanya is translated as perception. Well, perception is more than just sensation. Perception is knowing what it is, having the ability to realize what you have sensed. But at the time, When somebody hits you like that, you only feel a pain, you feel a sensation. You really don't know whether it is because your friend hit you or an object landed on your hand or whatever. There is a sensation, but you don't, that is what sanya is. Sanya is not referring to the perception of that whole experience. So sanya is a very low level experience. So I'm going to go deeper into this. Right? And then all this sanya vedana, every time we see something, there are millions and millions of sanya vedana, right, stimulating at any one moment, and then they get put together. And that process of being put together is sankhara, right? A mental construction producing the perception. This is where the perception is. That's why it's called the process of perception. But the word vijnana is often translated as consciousness. Well, if you talk about object consciousness, so I see an object there, then I'm aware there is an object there. That awareness, that consciousness of that object, then vijnana is correctly means object consciousness. I'm conscious of an object. But the word consciousness being used by scientists have many meanings, many levels of meaning. At the lowest level, consciousness simply means the consciousness of some sensations. That is the consciousness of the sanya. At a higher level, there is a consciousness of what that sensation is. And that is vijnana, the perception of that sense, the perception formed from all these sensations. At a higher level, there is a consciousness of a self, subjective consciousness existing, right? Experiencing the environment, which is the objective experience. So there is a subjective, there is an objective, that consciousness at a higher level. At a higher level than that, there is an awareness of a self in the world. Oh, I exist in this whole world, and this world is made of this country, that country, and I'm Chinese, I'm so and so, So there is this identification consciousness. One level higher than that, then you begin to be conscious of, we live in this planet called Earth, and then there are so many other planets out there, so this universe is very vast. Even though we can't see the rest of the universe, we just see empty skies, or skies with twinkling stars, but we still are able to understand that there is a universe out there. So that is a higher level of consciousness. We can even take it one level higher, transcendental consciousness. We begin to be conscious of things which we cannot describe with words, beyond ability to describe. So consciousness has many levels. Right? Therefore, to say vijnana is consciousness, just the word consciousness alone, that's not enough. Object consciousness, yes, you are conscious of an object. That's what vijnana is, the awareness of an object. Right? So I'll come back to talk about these in great details in just a moment. Before that, I'll just very quickly go back to talk about how it all comes about. So all this, if we were to cling on to that experience, we would personalize the experience. Oh, I feel the pain, right? The I, me, or mine, it will lead to all kinds of suffering, dukkha. And dukkha is commonly translated as the word suffering. It sounds very severe, right? Dukkha is translated as suffering, and it sounds very severe, but actually dukkha can also mean simple little thing. When you are not satisfied with what you're getting, or when you're not satisfied with not getting what you want, that is dukkha. So that is a dissatisfactoriness. That is not suffering, so to speak, in the sense that, oh, severe suffering. When we talk about suffering, often we think of something very severe. Either somebody is very sick in the hospital, they're suffering, or maybe a dearly beloved one has just passed away, and that is suffering to us. So this is big time suffering. But dukkha can also mean simple little thing like stress. Somebody says something you don't like, and then suddenly you react to it. That is a kind of suffering. It's stress. Or that stress can lead to mental proliferation. Your mind begins to run off and you start to feel unhappy and you start to imagine crazy things. That leads to mental disturbances called distress. So stress is the body being disturbed. Distress is the mind being disturbed. So that is dukkha. So dukkha has many different levels. But if we were to, everything we see, hear, smell, taste, or touch, if we will begin to personalize that experience, cling on to things that we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, and start to create the concept that I, me, or mine, it will bring us a lot of dissatisfactoriness. So who are we at the end of the day? And the bottom line is, we can only say we are organisms in an environment. And we interact with the environment. And this process of organism interacting in the environment, in the first place, there are two important things going on. The first is metabolism. This organism depends on the body. Without the body, there is no consciousness, there is no mind. Mind doesn't stand alone. Mind is not an entity. It is an activity rising from the activity in the body. So, metabolism is what keeps the body alive. Without metabolism, we are not alive. That means a dead person has no metabolism. Right? And anybody where the metabolism in your body stops, you're dead. Right? So, to be alive means to have metabolism going on in this body. At the same time, we are all blessed with these 5 senses, able to sense the environment, able to see, hear, smell, taste, and touch the environment. And this is the process of perception arising. That's panchakanda, enabling us. That is the process that enables us to experience the environment. And that environment is very complex today. Now, just very quickly, we go to talk about the body, because without the body, we cannot sense the environment. That's why we live in this world called the Kama Loka. Kama simply means sensual. Loka is the world we live in today. Right? We are living in the Kama Loka. Same with the animals. And because of this sensation, we're able to experience a sensual world that we're living in. And this sensual world, we need to have a body to experience it. And therefore, the main thing in this body that is experiencing the sensual world is the central nervous system, which is made of 2 main parts, the brain and the spinal cord. The spinal cord is connected to the rest of the body, the peripheral nervous system, and this peripheral nervous system is connected to all the organs. Now, it's very important. I'm going to talk a little bit about the science behind it, because this is really very important. This will explain why Bhante Punnaji translates Panchakanda in the way he does, and why he explains it in the way he does, and why so many other people may not have understood it because they did not connect it with science. I'm going to show you the science behind it. So, peripheral nervous system connected to all sense organs. Where light enters the eye, it sends a signal or impulse through the nerves to the brain. So it's the brain that is able to process it. So as the brain processes every signal coming in, the brain sends an instruction back to the body to do something. Right? If I'm thirsty, I want to take a drink. Or if I want to take a picture, I pick up the camera. So the body does something according to instructions from the brain. Sometimes these instructions are intentional. That means we are aware of it. We command it. Sometimes it's autonomic. We don't think about it, but it happens. Right? So you touch something hot, your hand withdraws. You see? So there is an autonomic reaction. And that reaction, we didn't think about it. When you touch something hot, you didn't think, it's very hot, it's burning my skin. Now, if I don't take my hand away, it will burn my skin, then my skin will become all burnt, then my skin cannot touch anything anymore. It's time to take my hand away. Do we think like that? No. The moment we touch something hot, the hand bounces out. All this is a lot of activity going on inside the body and the brain. So it's happening without consciousness, because the body is reacting to it. It does not require an awareness. Right? Some people may argue that, there is very fast activity going on. Yes, there is, but some of it actually did not even reach the brain. Some of this reaction actually is a feedback arc. It reaches the spinal cord, and then it causes the muscle to tense up. But then, of course, the same signal goes to the brain, and then the brain processes it and causes a fight or flight reaction, where now not only the finger gets away, your whole body retracts. That is, of course, being processed by the brain. So everything we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch, it is stimulating the sense organ, and the sense organ sends the signal to the brain. Right? So we have optic nerves that carry signals from the eyeball to the brain. And for the ear, we have also auditory nerves that carry signal from the ears, the ears to sense the sound and bring it to the brain. From the nose, we have olfactory nerves, and from the tongue, we have gustatory nerves. And then from the body, for touches, we have many different kinds of nerves. I will come to that in a moment. So all this goes to the brain, and the brain processes it. And basically, the brain is made of three main parts. The oldest part is the brainstem, the innermost part, that is the brainstem. This is responsible for keeping us alive, responsible for the process that keeps us alive, including this metabolism going on. That means your digestion, your respiration, your heartbeat, your blood pressure, all this is controlled by this part of the brain. And then you have, of course, the limbic system, which is the emotional brain, and then you have the cerebral cortex, the thinking brain. I'm not going to talk too much about this process, this higher process of consciousness. I'm going to focus back to experiencing the environment by seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching.